When my daughter called to uninvite me from Christmas dinner because her father's new wife needed to feel included, my heart broke, but I didn't argue. I simply packed my gear and went back to the military base for another holiday on active duty. But at exactly 12:03 a.m. on Christmas morning, my phone buzzed, and my daughter's hysterical, sobbing voice filled the line. "Mom, why did the Pentagon just call Dad? Who are those people outside our house?" Before I tell you what my ex-husband did that triggered a high-level government intervention on Christmas night, follow my story until the end and comment the city you are watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. They thought they were pushing a lonely mother into the shadows, but they forgot exactly what kind of operations I command. My name is Evelyn Vance, and at 44 years old, I have spent more than half my life wearing a camouflage uniform, earning my rank as a major in the United States Army Logistics Division. You learn to expect the unexpected when dealing with global military movements, but nothing prepares your heart for a hit delivered by your own flesh and blood. It was just a week before the holidays when my 21-year-old daughter Chloe called me. Her voice wasn't angry. It was worse. It was gentle, detached, and carefully rehearsed. "Mom, I think it's better if you don't come down to Sacramento for Christmas dinner this year," she said softly. My breath caught, the quiet hum of my office fading into a sharp ringing sound. Before I could even ask why, she rushed to fill the silence, delivering the script she'd clearly been given. "Dad's new wife, Vanessa, will be hosting, and she's putting so much effort into everything. We really want her to feel like she's a true part of the family, you know? It might just be awkward with you there." The cold calculation behind those words was unmistakable, a polished eviction from my own daughter's holiday. I didn't cry, and I didn't argue. I simply swallowed the bitter taste of betrayal, packed my tactical gear, and volunteered to pull holiday duty at the base. If my family didn't have room for a soldier at their perfect table, the military always had work to keep me occupied. To understand how I ended up alone in a high-security military command center on Christmas Eve, you have to understand my ex-husband, Richard. For 15 years, I was the stable foundation he built his ego upon. While he was struggling to launch his corporate logistics firm, my steady military salary and healthcare paid our bills, kept a roof over our heads, and provided the safety net he needed to take big risks. But once his company finally took off and the multi-million-dollar contracts started rolling in, Richard's memory suddenly developed a convenient blind spot. He began looking down on my military career, treating my uniform like an embarrassing middle-class relic that didn't fit into his newfound high-society lifestyle. Then came Vanessa. 10 years younger than me, she was a polished socialite who excelled at spending Richard's money and curating a flawless, wealthy image on social media. She was deeply insecure about the fact that I had built the foundations of Richard's life, so her mission became clear: completely erase my footprint and rewrite herself as the ultimate matriarch of the family. Richard was all too happy to play along, trading loyalty for a trophy wife who flattered his vanity. As I walked across the tarmac of the military base, watching the cold wind whip against the security fences, the contrast was sharp. They were wrapping expensive hollow gifts in a gated Sacramento mansion, basking in a superficial fantasy. They thought they had successfully pushed me out, leaving me isolated in the stark, concrete reality of active duty. The quiet hum of the military command center on Christmas Eve was a comfort, a predictable rhythm of glowing monitors and flashing global transit lines. I was deep into reviewing international military logistical supply networks when the digital clock on the wall shifted to exactly 12:03 a.m. That was the precise moment my secure personal phone began to vibrate violently against the steel desk. I picked it up, expecting a routine check-in, but the voice on the other end was unrecognizable. It was Chloe, but she wasn't the poised, detached young woman who had uninvited me a week ago. She was hyperventilating, her words broken by sharp, frantic gasps of pure terror. "Mom, please answer. Oh my God, Mom," she sobbed, the background noise echoing with high-pitched tension. I immediately shifted out of maternal worry and straight into my commanding officer mindset, straightening up in my chair. "Chloe, breathe. Tell me exactly what is happening right now," I commanded, my voice carrying the steady weight of military authority. Through her tears, she managed to piece the nightmare together. She explained that less than 10 minutes ago, a convoy of unmarked black government SUVs had quietly pulled up to the gates of Richard's mansion. Simultaneously, Richard's private encrypted line had rung with an urgent emergency call originating directly from a high-level, secure office inside the Pentagon. Chloe was hiding in the hallway, watching her father's face turn completely white. She said his hands were shaking violently as he frantically began throwing thick stacks of corporate legal documents directly into the living room fireplace. I kept my voice perfectly level, a calm anchor for Chloe's escalating panic, while my mind rapidly assembled the pieces of the puzzle. "Chloe, listen to me carefully," I instructed, my eyes locked on the logistics monitors glowing in front of me. "What kind of documents is he burning? What did you hear him say on that call?" She was crying so hard her voice kept cracking, but she managed to whisper what she had overheard before Richard slammed his office door shut. It turned out that Richard's highly praised corporate logistics company had recently celebrated winning a massive civilian defense subcontract. He had bragged about it for weeks, using the multi-million-dollar deal to secure his elite status and impress Vanessa's wealthy social circle. But to secure that contract, Richard had cut corners that no civilian should ever touch. In his desperate arrogance, he had committed massive compliance fraud, utilizing falsified international clearance documents to bypass strict regulatory safety checks. He thought it was just standard corporate maneuvering, a victimless shortcut to expedite his shipping lanes and maximize his profit margins. What his greedy mind hadn't realized was that those specific shipping lanes intersected directly with classified military supply chains, the exact high-security logistics networks that my division monitors and protects every single day. By fabricating those security clearances, Richard hadn't just cheated a government bidding system. He had actively compromised vulnerable national security assets during a time of heightened global monitoring. As Chloe described the smoke filling their living room, I realized my ex-husband had just crossed a line that no amount of corporate money could ever erase. The twist was that I hadn't lifted a finger or pulled a single military string to ruin their perfect holiday out of spite. Richard's company had triggered automated high-security alarms hours before, the moment his fraudulent digital clearances attempted to interface with our secure network. My superior officers at the Pentagon had initiated the standard security breach protocol completely independent of my personal life, entirely unaware that the crooked CEO under investigation was actually my ex-husband until the final warrants were generated. "Mom, you have to do something. Stop them," Chloe begged, her voice echoing through the speaker. I took a deep breath, the harsh fluorescent lights of the command center reflecting off my uniform. "I can't stop this, Chloe, and I wouldn't even if I could," I said firmly, letting the reality of the situation sink in. I had to explain to my weeping daughter that her father wasn't a victim of an administrative misunderstanding or a government mistake. Richard had deliberately committed a major offense against national security assets just to fuel his vanity and fund Vanessa's extravagant lifestyle. He had chosen to play a highly dangerous game with federal defense protocols, and the consequences had finally arrived at his doorstep. While they were busy planning an exclusive dinner party and counting me out, the wheels of federal justice had been turning silently in the background, completely out of my hands. The flashing red and blue lights of federal law enforcement vehicles illuminated the frosted windows of Richard's mansion, completely shattering the quiet of Christmas morning. Armed federal agents quickly secured the premises, executing a high-priority warrant to seize the logistics company's main servers and confidential financial records. Vanessa's meticulously planned, perfect family Christmas collapsed into absolute chaos within a matter of minutes. Her designer holiday decorations and expensive catering stood in stark contrast to the grim reality of tactical gear moving through the house. The elite social status she and Richard had worked so hard to project evaporated instantly as his corporate assets were frozen by federal decree. Chloe walked out of the house in utter disgust, finally seeing past the superficial facade her father and stepmother had built. She realized with painful clarity how they had used her as an emotional shield, orchestrating a picture-perfect family holiday to distract from a mountain of illegal corporate deception. Standing outside in the cold morning air, she watched the man she thought was an invincible tycoon shrink under the authority of federal investigators. Richard's arrogance was entirely gone, replaced by the broken look of a man who realized his shortcuts had cost him everything. The luxury cars in the driveway, the expensive gifts under the tree, and the high society lifestyle they had valued more than basic integrity were all stripped away, leaving behind nothing but the cold, unyielding consequences of fraud. 3 months later, the dust finally settled on the ruins of Richard's empire. He faced severe legal and financial fallout, losing his company, his elite social standing, and ultimately his freedom as the federal courts finalized his sentence. Vanessa, true to her nature, filed for a swift divorce the moment the bank accounts were frozen, chasing after another wealthy target down in Los Angeles. Chloe packed up her things and moved into a small apartment just 10 minutes away from my military base. She came to my office last week, tears in her eyes, and deeply apologized for pushing me away for a superficial fantasy. Looking back, I realize that the most powerful thing you can do when people try to diminish your worth is to stay quiet and let your integrity speak for itself. You don't need to fight dirty when justice is perfectly capable of handling the heavy lifting on its own. Now, I'm curious about all of you who listened to my story today. What would you have done if your own child uninvited you from a holiday dinner? Would you have answered that frantic midnight call? Comment your thoughts below. Meanwhile, I am leaving 2 other incredible stories on the screen right now that are absolute channel favorites and will definitely surprise you. Thank you so much for watching until the very end.